everyone, today we're taking a look at the FlyLens 85 HD with the 04 Pro inside. If you're looking for the text, the specs, the weights, the batteries, the flight times, slower, more cinematic sort of cruisy flights, that is in a previous video that I already did, and I will link it down in the video description. I'll put a card over here as well, so you can see that easily. This will be just my faster freestyle sort of flight. As I sit down on the table, I have a little bit of jitter from me, probably bonking into the table a little bit. But many of you know that the original FlyLens 85 with the Naked 03 was one that I have very much enjoyed. And 2-inch 2S is one that I enjoy quite a bit. But with this 04 versus the Naked 03, there's what, about 8.5 gram difference? And that is pretty substantial. And I think if you compare both videos, you'll see quite a bit of difference. Before I go too deep into this particular flight, I do need to report the specifications for our environment, which is 44 degrees and 12 miles an hour. You see on some of those power loops around the tree, I'm not quite nailing it. And I did feel, because I did a comparison between the two, that when it came to prop wash handling, there was a fairly significant difference and kind of what I would say a margin for error when doing those things and how you bring the throttle up. That did mean that more oftentimes on this 04 version than the 03 version, I would get some of that prop wash. Now, maybe it's because they use the same tune. I actually, as I was talking through this, I did not compare the tune to see if it was identical on both these two quads, but that's something that we can look at just to see if it's maybe just a tuning issue. Maybe they didn't retune just because of the 04. But again, I think it's an 8.5 gram difference, and we'll weigh it again after the flight. I don't have any sort of durability tests that go on in this. Most of my flights in the crashes that were pretty mild, you know, I bottomed out, or I catch a branch somewhere here and there, and I kind of tumble the ground. Even the ground is fairly soft while the grass is short. We have had several snowstorms. I think I just reported in my last video that we had another snowstorm that was inbound, and we did get about 2.5 inches, but that snow is already gone. We had super high winds during that storm too, upwards of 68 miles an hour in the area. So that's really something. I mean, you could hear it howling from inside the house. But my personal preference, if I'm looking at these two quads, I would prefer to just remain and fly the Naked 03 version of the 85. But if you're wanting 04 and maybe... I don't know the full compatibility of DJI goggles, so maybe not all DJI free version of goggles are compatible with the 03 version. So I am using the Goggles 3 in my particular case. So that's something that I'll link a chart down in the video description, so if you have the N3 goggles and the compatibility stuff there. But you see the flight ended. We didn't quite get down to the 3.5 volts per cell, but the flight was 2 minutes and 34 seconds. So the first one that we'll weigh up here is the original FlyLens 85 with the 03. Do note that's naked, and I do have the lens protector, so no metal plates around here. Just about 79 grams. And then we have the same 750 battery holster on both, but with the 04. That's with all of its metal plates, 87.5 grams. So 8.5 grams, just as I was reporting. That on 2-inch 2S, that 8.5 grams when it comes to more aggressive flight style, whether it's cinematic or otherwise, that is fairly significant. Here is the PID tune from the FlyLens 85 with the 03 that's naked inside. I just wanted to take a look at these numbers. Looks like we've got 60s, 130s, 70 and 80s here, D-max and D-min. So that's something to remember here. I'm sure that will be different now that I think about it, that the versions of Betaflight are just too different for not to be identical. But I do need to switch USB cables because the old one is micro USB and the new one has USB-C. And here we are with the 04 version. We can see that while the PID tune isn't dramatically different, it is fairly different. So they're definitely not using the same PID tune on the two of these. That was something that as I was narrating the flight, I did want to double check. And while I was at it, I thought I could record it and share it with you. So I think there are ways that I have seen online of making the weight of the 04 lighter by removing a lot of its casing and stuff like that. But that's just not something that we're seeing from companies at this time. You know, they've got the standard 04. This has got the 04 Pro. The 04 with its smaller camera and lighter weight, it just unfortunately doesn't have the same field of view, which for me, it tends to decrease the sense of speed and kind of the overall view, especially when you're doing maneuvers from up high down. It just gives you a different sense of how you're flying. So that's something in the difference between the two cameras. You can get this, I believe, with the 04 Lite, as we're calling it. But quite honestly, for me and my flight style, and because the 03 is compatible, I would just prefer to continue to fly the 03 version. Again, if you're all in on the 04s, I get it. There might be some image quality or something that you're after, or you just want to stay with the latest that DJI is offering because of compatibility issues or what have you. This does fly well. It just doesn't fly as well due to the extra weight as the 03 Lite version that I like so very, very much. I don't think you'll be really disappointed, but I just have to kind of temper my what I say about the quad, because we've got their own quad to compare it to kind of, especially at this flight style in this video, to look at it and say, well, okay, which one do I want to go after? You kind of have to make that choice if you're looking at these at all. I will link the original review video, which probably is 8, 10, 12 months ago, on the 03 Lite version from FlyWoo, down in the video description as well. But for me, again, I would probably just stay with the 03 Lite version, because I wouldn't want to transition this to the 04 Lite, because of that field of view and that sense that you get when you fly just isn't quite the same. And some people are going to ask about taking the 03 and mounting it in this current version. I believe it will work. There's only, I believe, 1 millimeter of difference in the camera size. Although when I look at the two different housings for the camera, they're dramatically different. So you're probably going to have to order the frame for the 03 Lite version in order to get them to fit. But, do your homework on that. Check the physical dimensions of these things, because I'm not swapping them back and forth. So when I get those questions, pretty much all I do is I Google it for you, and then I go look at the physical dimensions. I'm not, like I said, I'm not moving these things back and forth just to see what does work and what doesn't work. From the bottom standpoint, I do think the VTX should fit right in. I do know that a few people were kind of waiting on this. That's why I'm kind of going in more on the opinion side of things, and based upon how I like to fly. But if you fly differently, again, I've got cruisy, sort of flat sort of flying, with different battery sizes, and I go over all the specs in the original video when I had the cast on my wrist, linked down in the video description. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, or otherwise, please let me know in the comment section. They're down below. I appreciate your time, and thanks for watching.